Hello, my name is LoG, and welcome to another edition of LoG Tracks. This track will be in the category called changing, meaning if you want to sound your best over this track, you're going to have to change with the chords as they do. Let's listen to this track now that changes chords in the key of A. In the lesson for this track, we will talk about a concept that I call pretend chords, which is a concept that I think makes playing over a variety of changes like this much easier. If you'd rather get started with the track, feel free to click the link above or below in the description. Let's get on now to these pretend chords. So to start off this lesson, we're going to talk about a sound called major 7, which is happening quite often in this track. What we want to do is find the notes over major 7 that are always going to sound smooth, that are easy to play, that don't really require us to be careful with them. We can kind of play them however we want. The two ways to figure out these notes are to simply find the notes that are already happening in the chord tones, and then find the notes that are not in the chord, the non-chord tones, but make sure that they do not clash with the chord tones by half step, meaning we want to make sure we find notes that are not half steps next to the chord tones. So step number 1 is find the chord tones. So let's get started with that. Pretty easy to do. It's kind of in the title of the chord, right? If you think about a major 7 chord, it's major 7. So all it is a major chord, which the formula for all major chords is always 1, 3, 5 of whatever the 1 is. So let's say if we want to find C major 7, we find C's 1, 3, 5, or if we want to find A major 7, we find A's 1, 3, 5, etc. And then the other part of the chord is the 7 part, major 7. And all that is the 7 of the chord. So the full formula for a major 7 chord is 1, 3, 5, and then the 7. That's it. So the first chord of this track is A major 7. So I want to figure out what the 1, 3, 5, and 7 are of A, right? Well, if I just call up the notes, it will be A is 1, C sharp is 3, E is 5, G sharp is 7. So I'm going to play all of those notes on one string so you can see where they're located in relation to each other and what they sound like. So here's the A, right? That's our 1. Where's the 3? Right, just move it up major scale until I get to 3. That's the 3, 1, 2, 3. That's our C sharp. Where's the 5? 3, 4, 5, right? That's an E. So we'll keep going to 7, 5, 6, 7. That's the 7, that's G sharp. And then we're back to 1. So our full chord, all of the chord tones are A is the 1, C sharp is the 3, E is the 5, G sharp is the 7. Pretty easy, right? So that's our bulk, those are the bulk notes that we're going to play during this chord sound. So now let's do part 2, and that is find the notes that are not in the chord, but are also not right next to chord tones, right? So all I'm going to do is I'm going to move up, literally play every single note from A to A, and make sure that that note is not going to be clashing by half step with one of the chord tones. So the first 2 chord tones we have are A and C sharp. the 1 and the 3 right there. So I've got some notes in between here. I've got 3 notes, and I want to find the ones that are not half steps next to 1 or 3. So if this is 1, that note I'm not going to play because it's a half step away from 1. And if this is 3, that note I'm not going to play because it's a half step next to 3. But this note right here is not a half step next to either of those. It's a whole step away, right? This note and then 3, and then this note and then 2. So that note is a viable note to play. What note is this? This will be the 2 of the key. So A, B, C sharp, the 2. So I'm going to add that into my mix. So what do I have now? Instead of just 1, 3, 5, 7, I now have 1, 2, 3, 5, 7. Already sounds pretty cool by adding just that 1 extra note in there. Nice, let's keep going. So that was from 1 to 3, we found that 1 note. How about from 3 to 5? Okay, so here's my 3, there's my 5. I have 2 notes in between. Both of them are going to be half steps away, right? That one's half step away from 3, that one's half step away from 5. So I'm not going to play either of those. Could I play them? Of course I could, but remember, the point of this is finding the notes that are going to be the smoothest, easiest to play. So I'm going to skip both of those. That was from 3 to 5. So we just covered every note from the root up to the 5. Let's keep going. 5 to 7, that's our next chord tone up top. Here's our 5, there's our 7. So I'm not going to play this note because it's right next to 5, and I'm not going to play this note because it's right next to 7. What I am going to play, though, is this one, right? This one is not right next to 7, and it's not right next to 5. Whole steps away from both of them. What note is this? If this is 5, that is 6. So now my whole scale that I have so far is 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, and then 7. And then after the 7, we're right back to 1. So that's literally every note that exists. All of those notes are going to sound smooth over an A major 7 because they're either chord tones or they're notes that are non-chord tones that are not right next to one of the chord tones. And that gives us 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7. Already pretty cool sounding. So we've got some nice colors happening right there. So now let's play all of this stuff over a static A major 7 chord, and we can see how all of the notes function. All right, I'm going to play a track that's just major 7, and we're going to test out how all of these notes sound. Remember, we're either playing chord tones or non-chord tones that are not half steps next to the chord tones. The reason why we're doing this is because if we play a note that is a half step away from a chord tone, for instance, like if we play 4, so where's 4? 1, 2, 3, 4, that note would be a half step away from 3. And if that happens, that's going to create a little bit of a clash that sounds like this. The chord will be playing this, and we will be playing that in our lead. Not that that's a bad thing, but that's not the point of what we're doing right here. We want to play the smoothest, easiest notes to play, kind of the most mindless notes that we can just play and never worry about having a clash. So that's why we're doing this. So let's listen to what this track sounds like, and I'm going to play all of these notes, see how they work. So here's the track, there's the major 7. Here we go, 1, 2, 3. Right, 3, 5, 6, 5, 6, 7. That's the 7 down here, right behind the 1. Nice. I'm going to play each note a little bit, see how it functions with the chord. That's the 3. Sounds real nice. That's the 2. Sounds good. That's the 5. Sounds good. That's the 6. Sounds good. That's the 7. Sounds real nice. Here's the 1. Interesting. That 1 has a little bit of a clashing flavor to it. That's odd. That's a chord tone, right? 1 is the root of the chord. Shouldn't it fit perfectly like the 3, 5, and 7 do? This is because the reason why this clash is happening is because this chord is a major 7 chord. If I just played a normal major chord, like a major, just a major triad as it's called, I can play the 1 freely because the 1 is hanging out by itself. It's not stepping on anyone else's territory. So I could do whatever little lick like that and end on the roots or emphasize the roots, and it's always going to sound good over that chord. But that is not the chord we're playing. We're playing a major 7 chord. Sounds like this. Right? Instead of 1, 3, 5, 1, that's that normal A major, I'm playing 1, 3, 5, 7. There's a 7 happening in the track. And what happens when you have a 7 in a major chord is that 7 dominates the sound, and it kind of makes the 1 have to take a back seat. Because in the normal chord, the 1 was hanging out by itself. But in a major 7 chord, we have a 7 happening. And that means 1 and 7, even though they're both in the chord and they're both chord tones, that's creating the half-step clash that we just tried to avoid when we were building all of the notes that we're going to play. So what that means is the 7 is now the note that maybe we want to bring out more instead of the 1. So I'm going to play that track one more time, and notice when I play the 1 right here, just on 1 string, it's obviously okay, but it has a little bit of a clash. Now watch when I play the 7. The 7 has a much smoother sound because, again, that note is being featured in the chord. That note is more important, I would say, than the root, especially in this higher register. If I were to play the 1 in a lower register, it might work a little bit better because that's usually where roots are played. If you're playing keys, playing this chord with on a keyboard, just with 2 hands like that, usually the A or the root will be in the left hand in the lower register. Or if you're playing this voicing, spread throughout a band, usually the root will be played by the bass player in the lower register. So if I try to play a 1 over this track in the lower register, you'll notice that it will slide, or it'll kind of slink in or slide in a little bit more smooth than if I played it in the higher register. That's the track. Sounds a little smoother because that's where that note is being played in the actual voicing. But if I played it up here, feels like that it is now clashing a little bit because this note, of course, is clashing with the 7, and in this register, you can hear it. That note is the 7, and it's happening in that register. So in order to make sure that I sound smooth, I might want to play in a way, especially in the higher register and the melody register, I might want to play in a way that I'm not emphasizing or bringing out that 1. I might want to play the 7 and emphasize that note more. So check this out. So I hit it up there for a second, but I eventually came back and played the 7 instead. So what we're going to do is take this actually another step forward. Instead of just, kind of lightly playing the root, we're actually going to not play the root at all. We're going to take our scale that we've been playing, which was 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, and 7, and omit or leave out the root entirely. So now we're only playing 2, 3, 5, 6, and 7. There is no root in here, which you might think that's kind of weird. Shouldn't we be playing the root? In this case, it's actually kind of a better idea, or I don't want to say a better idea, but it's a good idea to not play the root, because then that means we will always be playing notes that are going to gel perfectly with the chord. Now, of course, if I'm in the lower register where the root is naturally living within the chord voicing or within the track or within the band that I'm playing with, then I can sneak it in. I might want to play the 1 more than the 7 down here. Check this out. See, the 1 sounds smooth because this is where it's living in the chord. If I play the 7, now the 7, even though it's perfect up top, in the lower register, it clashes a little bit because that's not where that note lives in this voicing. It lives up top. But for now, I'm going to keep it kind of in the higher register. And because of that, I'm going to completely take out the 1 entirely. So let's listen to what that sounds like a little bit. Maybe move my track back. Check this out. So no 1 right here. That's the 2 just starting there. 3, 5, 6, 7. Right? That's the 1, or excuse me, the 7, 1, 2. I'm straight up not playing it. Right? All of those notes sounded good. As we just tested all of them out earlier, I can sit on all of them. They generally work really well over this chord. And it's even easier now that the 1 is not there. I don't have to think about that 1 as a note that might clash a little bit because I just straight up took it out. So now with that in mind, let's get a kind of a scale figure that we can use to play this sound. So because there's no 1 anymore, I want to have a scale shape that starts on a chord tone, just so I can, bam, play that first note and know it's going to work really well. So because there's no 1, I'm going to start on the next chord tone, which would be a 3. So here's my normal scale if I just played it down here, right? It's my normal A major scale. So the notes that I'm playing, again, no root, leaving it out, the 2, 3, 5, 6, and 7. So I'm going to start this scale instead of on the 1 because we're not playing it anymore. I'm going to start on the 3, the next chord tone. So that figure would look like this. 3, 5, right? That would be the 6, the 7. That's the one. I'm skipping it, going right to 2 in the higher octave, and then 3. Take a look at this shape. Okay, let's play this over the track, see what it sounds like. Sounds really nice. Perfect. That's the idea that we just, discovered, all of those notes. But there's something kind of interesting going on that you might have caught. Check out this scale that I just played. Does that look familiar? It definitely feels familiar. This is actually a minor pentatonic scale starting on this note. This feels like I'm playing whatever this note is, which is C sharp. It feels like I'm playing C sharp minor pentatonic. And that's because that's exactly what I'm doing, right? If this was the root, let's look at this note temporarily as the root. This would be 1, it's flat 3, it's 4, 5, and flat 7. That is a literal minor pentatonic scale. In regards to this note, that is a literal C sharp minor pentatonic scale. What does that mean? That means that these two sounds that the first sound that I created, A major 7 without the root, all the smooth notes of A major 7 without the root, is verbatim the same exact thing as C sharp minor pentatonic. This is what I'm talking about when we talk about pretend chords. So let's get into that. The concept of pretend chords is exactly what it sounds like. You have a chord that's actually happening, but you're pretending that it's this chord to achieve a certain sound or a certain ease of play. This is super valuable for two reasons. Number one, I'm going to bet that many of you maybe have a little bit of a hesitation or a little bit of trouble playing over a major 7 sound, mostly because it's just not that common, or it's not as common as other things. But I'm going to bet that 99.9% of you can play minor pentatonic because it's a ridiculously common sound, especially for music that has guitar in it, right? So what that means is if you see a major 7 chord and you're thinking, I don't really know what to play, I don't have too many ideas that I can play over that chord, it doesn't matter. You can just go to its pretend chord and play minor pentatonic and play all of the ideas that you have always practiced, right? And the second thing that's really valuable is it essentially gives you double the amount of material to actually play. So if there's an A major 7 chord or track going on, I can play any major 7 idea that I have, but then I can turn around and play any minor pentatonic idea that I have as long as I do it at the right spot. So check this out. Here's the track, A major 7. I'm going to play with just a major 7 idea. Right? And then I can turn around and play its pretend chord C sharp minor. Right? That whole time I was literally thinking of that chord. I wasn't thinking A major 7. All of my licks, all of my ideas were based on the pretend chord, the C sharp minor, right? Super valuable. It gives you so much stuff to play. It's like a buy one, get one free chord or something. You see major 7, and of course you can play that, but then you can also turn around and play C sharp minor. You get like double the amount of licks. This is really great if you're spending a lot of time, let's say, practicing minor pentatonic, and then all of a sudden you have to solo over a major 7 chord. Instead of thinking, I haven't really practiced that sound, I don't know what to do, you can just think, well, let me go to its pretend chord, play minor pentatonic, and I can play all of those licks and ideas that I've been practicing. Super valuable. And then the other really great thing about this is if it works here for A, it's going to work the same way for every single chord, every single major 7 chord that you'll ever come across. So that was over A. Let me move now to a totally different chord. How about E flat major 7? Now watch this. The concept exactly the same. If this is the root of the actual chord, its pretend chord will be up on its 3rd, so up 2 whole steps, like I just did earlier, and minor pentatonic right there, right? Over the A, what was it, if you remember? Here's A major 7. Where was its pretend chord? C sharp minor, which was where? On its 3rd, up 2 whole steps. Right? So play a minor pentatonic right there. I'm on E flat major 7 right now. Totally different chord, but the concept is the same. That's the root of the actual chord, up 2 whole steps to its 3rd, minor pentatonic right there. So check this out. This is the E flat. Same concept, E flat major. I'm going to play that straight up E flat major 7. Now I'm going to go to its 3rd, G and play minor pentatonic. Right? It works exactly the same. How about a different chord? How about, let's do D major 7, right? Here's my 1, normal chord. I'm gonna play here. That's the pretend chord. Up to its 3rd, up 2 whole steps, minor. That's F sharp, minor pentatonic. Works perfectly. It's going to work every single time, no matter what the chord is, right? So this is a concept, if you always have this in the back of your mind, you see a major 7 chord, instead of thinking, I can play major 7, which is great, you can do that. You can also think, I'm going to go to its 3rd, up 2 whole steps, bam, start playing minor pentatonic. And any minor pentatonic lick that you know will work. Like, I can even play almost like a kind of a standard, like, blues minor. I can do like that's like the most standard minor blues pentatonic, but watch this. This is D major 7 happening right here. That's F sharp minor, right? The pretend chord. Watch this. Sounds perfectly fine. I'm even playing the flat 5 in there. And it still sounds great, right? Because the sound itself is great, and the vast majority of the notes that I'm playing are already in the chord because they're the same, right? This pretend chord, so D major 7 was the chord I was just playing. The pretend chord was up 2 whole steps, minor. Remember, the sound is the same. If you ever do that, what you're actually playing is the major 7 chord without the root. You're only playing that major 7's 2, 3, 5, 6, and 7. You're not playing the root at all. It's a really great sound, and it's super easy to play. It works all the time over pretty much any major 7 chord that you come across, and it works out really well. So now check this out. I'm going to play a track now that is major 7, right? Your standard major 7, but instead of having just one chord, it's 2 chords. A major 7 to D major 7. So what I can do here, instead of thinking, okay, I'm going to play over A major 7, and then I'm going to play over D major 7, I'm going to play the pretend chords of both of them. So instead of playing A major, I'm going to play its pretend chord up 2 whole steps to its 3rd, minor, that's C sharp minor. And then instead of playing D major 7, I'm going to go up 2 whole steps to its pretend chord, F sharp minor, and play that. So even though the chords are switching A major 7, D major 7, I'm thinking C sharp minor, F sharp minor. Check this out. It's going to work exactly the same. So here's the A. All right? That's C sharp minor. Watch this. That's F sharp minor. Back to C sharp minor. F sharp minor up top. Right? Sounds great, because not only do the notes work perfectly, but the ideas are tried and tested. All this minor pentatonic stuff works perfectly over any minor context. And if the notes are the same as the major 7, it's going to work exactly the same, right? Super easy concept, and it kind of makes things easier when you're trying to dissect chord progressions. So with all of this in mind, let's now move on to the backing track that we're going to play over and use this concept in action. All right, so this track that we're going to be playing over is 4 chords in the key of A. The first chord is A major 7, then it's C sharp minor, then it's D major 7, and then F sharp minor. So we have 4 chords right there. So let me play the track a little bit. You can see what it sounds like. So again, here are the chords. A major 7 for a bar, C sharp minor for a bar, D major 7 for a bar, F sharp minor for a bar. There it is. So of course, if we wanted to, we can just play those chords as they happen. If A major 7 is going on, you can play whatever major 7 idea you want to play. If C sharp minor is happening, play any C sharp minor idea. Same thing with the D major 7, same thing with the F sharp minor 7. You can play it exactly like that, switch between the chords as they're switching. However, now with this idea of pretend chords, we can now look at this progression and maybe find a simpler way to go about it. So for instance, we have an A major 7 in there. Well, we just figured out the concept of playing its pretend chord, if you remember where it was. So A major 7 is the chord that's happening, but its pretend chord would be up 2 whole steps like it always is, minor. Well, guess what chord that is? That's C sharp minor. Well, guess what? That's the next actual chord in this progression. So instead of playing A major 7 for a bar and then C sharp minor for a bar, we can actually play C sharp minor for both of those bars. So instead of thinking about 2 chords, A major 7, C sharp minor, we can just think about the C sharp minor and it will work the same. So watch this. I'm going to do the same thing, play the track, but I'm going to play just C sharp minor over both chords in the beginning. Here we go. So this is not A major. C sharp minor. Still C sharp minor. Right? And it works perfectly because we just figured out that C sharp minor is a chord that you can play on top of A major 7, or you can pretend that that chord is happening instead of A major. Nice. So we just took a 4 chord progression and boiled it down to a 3 chord progression, right? C sharp minor for the first 2 bars. And now let's take a look at the D major 7 and then the F sharp minor, the chords for the last 2 bars. We've got another major 7 chord, right? D major 7. Let's figure out what its pretend chord is. So it's the same exact concept, right? If that's the root for the major 7, go up 2 whole steps to its third, play minor pentatonic right there. What chord is this? This is F sharp minor. Well, guess what? F sharp minor is the chord that happens after D major. So instead of playing D major 7 and then having to switch to F sharp minor, I can play F sharp minor over both of those chords because it functions over both. It's the pretend chord for D major 7, and it's the actual chord for F sharp minor. So that means instead of, for the last 2 bars, instead of playing D and then F sharp, I can just play F sharp that whole time. Let's see what that sounds like. I'm going to roll it back slightly, and then we'll try this over the track. That's the D, right? F sharp minor right here. Here's the first 2, C sharp minor. That's the actual A chord. That's the actual C sharp. Here we go, D right there. That's F sharp, still playing F sharp. Back to C sharp. So what did I just do? I just took a chord progression that was 4 chords, right? You had A, then C sharp minor, then D, then F sharp minor, and I boiled it down to 2 chords by using the concept of pretend chords. I'm playing the C sharp minor for both the A and the C sharp, and then I'm playing the F sharp minor for both the D major and the F sharp minor, right? It simplifies things, makes things so much easier to navigate, and all you have to do is just see that major 7 chord like A major 7, and immediately see its pretend chord at the same time, so you can lock into it really easily. So I'm gonna play this a little bit more. That's the A, that's the C sharp. Now I'm on the D. A major 7, but I'm thinking C sharp minor. Still C sharp minor. F sharp minor. Still F sharp minor. You see how easy that is to play? And I'm playing all minor pentatonic sounds that are so easy, so common. And I can do that even though the chords are not C sharp minor, especially over the A and the D. You can see why this concept is so great, because you can take progressions that look very chordy and break it down to a much simpler version so that you can move through them in an easier way. So again, instead of playing A major 7, C sharp minor, D major 7, F sharp minor, I can play C minor for the A, and then, or excuse me, C sharp minor for the A, and then C sharp minor, obviously, for the C sharp minor, and then play F sharp minor for the D and continue to play F sharp minor. It takes a 4 chord progression, makes it a 2 chord progression. Super common, like I said, really easy to apply. You can do this to any progression that you talk, or any progression that you play over, as long as you know the pretend chords. Now, this is one example example of pretend chords. There are so many. I can't talk about all of them in this one video because we would be here forever, but I will definitely talk about them more in the future because of how useful they are. So over this track, what I'd like you to do is you can literally play A major 7, C sharp minor, D major 7, F sharp minor, but at any point, if you're playing over the major 7, you can slide into its pretend chord. And those pretend chords for major 7 are always, here's the root for the major 7, up 2 whole steps to its third, minor pentatonic right there. It will always be that. And this track, you have 2 major 7 chords, A major 7, D major 7, so you just need to know what their pretend chords are and be able to slide into them really easy, and you can run circles around this track. All right, that does it for this lesson on pretend chords. This is definitely something that I will be talking about more in the future because of how ridiculously useful it is in pretty much all contexts. If you guys are ready to play over the track, feel free to click the link above or below in the description. And as usual, if you like this type of instructional material, feel free to check out my Patreon at the other link below. I'll see you guys in the next one.